Hey guys, it's me Robin, RsIslandCrafts. Today I thought we would decorate some hand towels. Or kitchen towels, however way you call them. This time of the year tends to have a lot of celebrations. And I like to just add a little extra flair to the kitchen. So it's nice to have a decorated towel that goes for the seasons. I've already made a couple examples for us so we can just see what we're going to be making later on. This time is this one would work for Halloween because pumpkins of course, but it's also a very good fall one. I like to mix in with my Halloween decorations something that's going to last through October and November because, I don't know, maybe I'm just a little bit lazy and I don't want to keep changing out decorations. But it's a nice mixture. I like to mix the silly Halloween stuff with the bats and the jack-o'-lanterns and the skeletons and Draculas and stuff like that, and then bring in the fall at the same time because it's all about hay rides and pumpkins and haystacks and just the cool weather and the leaves. Anyway, none of that. Enough of that. This towel is going to be a gift. It's going to be going into my son's Advent box. He's 18 and him and his siblings are living on their own. And every time I go to the house, they really don't have towels. So Mama's going to decorate some towels and put it in their Advent box for Christmas. This is his plaid shirts from these are leftovers from when I made him his quilt. And this red plaid right here is the binding from his quilt. But what it is I took the cash register or calculator tape and I stitched his shirts down onto it. I'm sorry, I'm just having tongue-tied day today. I'm sure you guys have all had them. This strip here is left over from when I made his pillow when I was showing you how to make a pillow for him with the blue fabric. I didn't sew a lot down, so this is right now is the last piece of it for him. But I do have plenty of leftovers if I need to make more. So if you've been making your calculator tape, you can cut this, use this in it, whether you want to use it at the full width or you need to fold it down to make it a little narrower. So that's just another use of the cash register tape. Alright, so let's get these out of the way and we'll start working on the next towel. I had another brown towel because at this time of the year, that's what you're going to run across a lot. And when I was out shopping at Walmart the other day, I found this fat quarter. I thought this one was really fun, so I'm going to go ahead and use a strip off of this to decorate this towel. I like the way this pumpkin, it showed you enough of the fabric without being too much. When it's hanging halfway down off the stove, you just loop it over, your handle and all. It's a nice chunk of fabric, so you can see the design nicely. Now you can choose whatever width you'd like, but for this one, yep, I chose a 3-inch one for this one. Now for these, all I did was sew the fabric down onto them, but you can get some lace trim, or you get those little pom-pom balls. Those would be really fun for Christmas time. You can use some bias tape to sew it down. Really, once again, like we always say, it's your towel, it's your project. You can add whatever you want to it. A Christmas one would be really fun with maybe some bells sewn onto it, some little jingle bells and stuff. Christmas is coming, who knows, we might make another towel before then. Now when you're looking at your towels, this towel, of course, there's a tag on the back, so I know that this is the back. But if you look, it might not be easy to see on the camera, but this front one is a little bit fluffier, and this is more like the back of a carpet or something. You'll see it when you're doing it, but either way, it won't matter because the manufacturer will tell you because there's a tag on it. I like to keep the tag on the bottom, and I leave it intact so that the recipient knows how to handle the care instructions. So we know we're going to do a 3-inch wide band on it, but then we need to know how the length this way we're going to need. So these towels from edge to edge is just a little over 15 inches. It's about 15 1/4. So I'm going to cut mine, the length of it this way, or the width, however you want to look at it. I'm going to cut mine 16 inches, and that'll give me about a 1/4 inch or so to fold under on each side. Another thing we do have to take into consideration, I just automatically say, hey, my tag's there, I'm going to put it on the bottom. But if you look, these towels, your first thought might be you're going to line your fabric up on these lines, but that might not be the best idea, because if we measure this one right here, this side is about 1.5 inches from this little divot down to the edge. But if we follow that same divot all the way over, when we get to this side, it's 1.75 inches. So we can't actually line our fabric up with that, because otherwise when you look at it, you're going to see that it's wonky. Now if you look at this side, when we look at this side, we can see that it's wider down here than here. So you just decide on when you're looking at your towel, which end looks nicer. If this one is really obvious with this big chunk down here, and this side almost looks even. I mean, it's going to be hanging on a stove. It's down below eye level, so it won't be as noticeable. But the other end, you can see it was really looking much wider over here. So the tag is on this side, so we are going to use this side. So we're going to go ahead and cut our fabric 4 inches tall and 16 inches long. I'll move my towel so I don't accidentally cut it. Then we have to look at our fabric. We're lucky this time because all our turkeys are going all helter-skelter everywhere. But when we look at our pumpkins are definitely have a top and a bottom, because they're lined up all like this. If you'd have put them on your towel this way, it would obviously be upside down. So keep an eye on that when you're cutting your fabric. I'm just going to go ahead and cut the selvage off of this one end. I'm not lining up on either side because I don't trust that the edges are even. I'm just making sure that I'm past all these little holes. Now some people save these selvages and they do quilt projects and stuff with that. I don't. So the next thing I need to do is to cut off my 3 inches. No, it's 3 inches. I need to cut off my 4 inches. Did you catch that mistake? Always think things through twice before you cut them. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to line this black line up at the 4-inch mark along the edge of my fabric. And I'm not going to worry about the edges, the sides, because I'm going to even them up afterwards. Then I'm going to take this and I'm going to fold it up nice and neat and put it back on my fat quarter shelf. Probably I'll put it into my fall Thanksgiving pile, so it'll be easier to find when I want to make another towel or another project. Then I just, once again, I'm going to put the black line down at the bottom. I'm just going to take off just a smidgen to make it square down at the bottom. Told you words are failing me today. Sorry about that. Then what I do is I find, which number are we doing? I almost went to 15. I find the 16-inch line here. Sorry about the light. I find a 16-inch line here, and I'll take this black line and put it at the edge of my fabric. And then whatever's left over is at the end, and I'll chop that off. And this I will put it up into my weekly scrap bin that I'll need to sort at the end of the week. I have one of these Dritz Easy Hems. It has different markings. So depending on how you want to make your hem or your curves for your shoulders and stuff, or a curved hem I should say, you can go ahead, I'll show you how it works. I know I'm going to go ahead and iron under half an inch on each side, because I cut it at 4 inches and I want to have a 3-inch wide band. Just iron my fabric. See, can you see what I'm doing? There we go. And I'm using this 1/2 inch mark, my favorite one. I just go to the center of my fabric and I bring the edge of my fabric over to this black line. And because it's metal, be careful, it gets really hot, you can just iron over the top of it. And then I slide it down to the next section, and I put the edge of the metal into the crease that I just created. And that'll allow me to take my iron, and I can just push the fabric over, see that it gets to the 1/2 inch mark, just move my metal hem tool here as needed. Just give it a little iron. And the same thing down at this end. It'll just fold right over. That's what this little lip here is on your iron, to hold your fabric and to pop it over. Okay. If you need to, you can give it some steam. Spin it over, and I'm going to go ahead and do the other side. Okay, now that both sides are folded over and ironed, we're just going to flip it back over, and we're going to give it a good press and iron with some steam to hold these edges down. I want these hems to stay so that I don't have to worry about them when I'm over there sewing. On the ends, I'm going to go ahead and just bring them in just a little over, probably a 1/4 inch. The 1/4 inch on my tool is down here on a curve, so I'm just going to go ahead and guess a little. As we're stitching this onto the towel, you'll see how sometimes we have to adjust it a little bit, just the way it's been feeding through and sewing. Careful, it's hot. See all that condensation from the steam and stuff? It gets really hot, so you need to be really careful. And then what you can do here is you can go ahead and get your tape measure back out and see about where your 15.5 inches is, or you can just wait and bring your towel over and we can measure off of that. If your towel is wrinkly at all, now would be a good time to go ahead and give it a nice press. Now when you have these towels, they have a serged edge along here, so it's all thread to keep it from unraveling. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put my fabric so it comes right up to the edge, so I have this brown as a nice border that follows straight down the towel. Now some people like to take it and they wrap it around the back. Everything sticks to the towels. Some people like to wrap it around to the back and leave it like that. Sometimes they'll fold it under and make it nice, but I don't want to have it on the back. If you want to turn this towel around and use it for St. Patrick's Day, you know, anytime during the year, just put the Halloween pumpkin whatever stuff on the inside and no one will see it. So I don't like to wrap mine around. I guess we could have chosen our placement a little bit better because we lost a lot of the turkeys. If nothing else, coming here is a learning experience, right? That's okay, my kids will love this one. I'll give it to them for Thanksgiving. Now you have to decide how far up from the bottom of your towel you want your fabric to be. My son's plaid, I followed the line. I wanted one of the lines up here to go with that. So his is 3 inches from the bottom. The pumpkin, I wasn't necessarily going for that. I just wanted to have it nice and even. So the pumpkin is 4 inches from the bottom. So what do you say we split the difference and make this one 3.5? Now this is the side that I've already ironed under one, so I'm going to put that all the way to the edge. but leaving, you see how I have that little bit of a brown border here? And I'm using pins. You can use some fusible, or you can use that temporary spray adhesive. That would probably be really good. I'm going to put one on the end to hold it, and the rest I'm going to put down the center so they're not in the way when I'm sewing. Just make sure everything has stayed lined up nicely. Then I'm just going to add some pins down the center. Now, if you like seeing videos like this and tutorials and hanging out with me, please go ahead and press the red subscribe button down at the bottom. And if you enjoyed this video, please like it. It helps the channel out a lot. If YouTube sees that a lot of people subscribe and like the video and watch it, they'll go ahead and push it out to other people as a suggestion. Every little bit helps, and I truly appreciate everyone that comes by and hangs out with me. Okay, now we have to deal with the end. I'm just going to go ahead and take this and just fold it under by hand without ironing it, and give this one a little pin here too. Okay, so now here's one of the problems we've just realized. Once again, we are learning as we go. I didn't take into consideration the tag. I either have to remove the tag, which I don't like to do because then it doesn't seem like a brand new towel anymore. Because when I stitch through here, I'm going to be stitching onto that tag. So 3.5 inches won't work. We either need to have it on the other side of the towel or we need to push it up 4 inches. You ever just have one of those days when things just don't seem to work out right for you? But this is okay because we haven't done anything permanent. It's just fabric and a towel, and I haven't even sewn it yet. So 4 inches will get us past this silly little tag. Now, me talking about doing this is going to make the video much longer than it'll actually take you to make it. Just because we're chit-chatting, and of course I'm having these issues that now you won't have because you've watched this video all the way through. And once you have an issue on the first towel, you won't have that issue on the second one. And if you do, it might be time to just take a coffee break and go sit down and watch another YouTube video. I've got plenty of them down there to watch. Okay, once again, I'm going to just fold this over. When I show you, the actual video you're going to see me stitching is going to be on the pumpkin one because I went ahead and did that first before I made this part of the video. So that one's in great shape. But I explained to you why I just have this folded and not ironed and how we're going to adjust as necessary. Now, this sneaky little tag, I just take one of my little binder clips, clip him out of the way so he doesn't accidentally get stitched in anywhere. That much I remember to do. Sewing machine. Okay, let's head on over to the sewing machine and I'll show you how I stitched the pumpkin one down. Before we go, let's just talk about thread first. This one, I would probably use a green thread along the top because most of the fabric that you're going to be stitching through is going to be a green. And I like to match the top because you could use a white or a black or an orange, but it would really stand out as a contrast. Now, if you want that contrast, it's fine. I want mine to just kind of blend away and I want to be able to see the fabric. Now, my bobbin thread, I try to match the towel. As long as you're not using something like a flaming pink on a black towel, most of it's going to sink right into this nap of the towel and disappear. So as long as you're close, you'll be okay. It's at this point that if you were going to be using any of the extra things like rickrack or ribbon, now is when you would be putting it on. You can add the ribbon right on the top. You just want to say, just make sure it goes just a little bit past. So, I mean, if you want it like this, you can use it like that if you want to have that space. But if you want to use it to cover up the edge, maybe let it hang over the edge a little bit or be even with it. And in that instance, you'd probably want to put 2 stitches down, one on each edge to hold a ribbon. So you don't want the ribbon to be flopping around. If you were to be using the lace trim, you could put the lace on top depending on what type of lace you had. But for this, I would tuck it under, make it all nice and even, and then I would stitch down here, but I would leave this lace flopping free. I think that lace with the little scallops and stuff would look really good, but I think my favorite would probably be the ones with the little balls all on it. But it's up to you. These you can make them plain and simple. If you make them like this, most everyone will like them. If you know someone who likes to have that extra special pizzazz with it, go ahead and add the extra to it. If it's for you, you know what you like, add what you want. All you have to do is figure out how you can get it sewn down to your towel. Some things you may have to hand stitch down, like if we were to put jingle bells on a Christmas one, I don't think I've ever seen anyone sew them on with a machine. We'd have to hand stitch those. If you wanted to, you could just put one piece of lace on here. They have that really nice crocheted lace that would look nice on a towel. Or you could put several pieces of ribbon, or if you had a nice wide chunky ribbon. I've seen a lot of ribbon. When I was up at the Dollar Tree, they have a lot of Thanksgiving ribbon that's nice and wide. You could just put that ribbon straight across here, stitch both ends of it down, and that would work too. That's an idea. I might pick up some of the Christmas ribbon and try that. Okay, as I said, let's go ahead over to the machine. Enough of this talking. Let's get going. I put my pins down the center just to keep them out of the way so I don't have to keep removing them as I'm sewing. And since I ironed this down well, the crease will stay there, the fold will stay. And I'm just going to go ahead and do a top stitch, which is basically about 1/8 of an inch from the edge. Since I'm not using a walking foot, my towel and my fabric might get a little bit off. So I'm going to go ahead and start on the bottom where it's not as noticeable. And I never want to start on these sides because as it's going, sometimes it feeds differently. And I can adjust for it when I get to the edges. So just pick a spot. Line everything up, press your foot down. As usual, I hold my top thread, drop my needle, bring it back up, and if I pull it, it pulls out the bobbin thread. I pull that bobbin thread through the top so I don't get that bird's nest on the bottom. Now for this one, I am using orange thread for the top to match the pumpkins, and I have a brown to match the back. I hold my threads out of the way when I start sewing, drop my needle back down, and off we go. Now while the terry cloth towel material isn't all that stretchy, sometimes when they make it and they serge the sides, it could get a little wavy or off kilter. But what I'm going to do, I'm just going to check to make sure the edge of it kind of looks even with the edge with this, because even if the edge is uneven, your eye is going to notice if your pumpkin's even. So you kind of want to just find a happy medium. And I'm going to stop just 1/8 of an inch in the corner so that I can pivot and go back over. If when you spin it, that you're not lined up equal to the way you were like this, just spin it back and go forward or backward a stitch. Make sure my edge is tucked. Now this section here, you have to be careful that the underside doesn't peek out from the front. So we just make sure that stays nice and tucked. Even if we have to kind of make the back just scrunch over just a little bit. I'm going to go ahead and cut my threads so when I come back around the corner, they're not in my way. I'm going to finish stitching all the way around and we're back at the beginning. Now when I get to the second side, if the fabric had pulled a little bit taller, a little bit further along the towel than the towel shifted, I'll just take that excess, even though my fold made it look crooked like this because it just shifts a little. So I'm just going to go ahead and tuck this under just a little bit more so that it's evened up with the edge of the towel. And that's why I don't start on an end, because I want to be able to adjust it as necessary. Sometimes you have to tuck the fabric in a little, and sometimes you just have to tuck the towel down a little. If you squinch the towel just a little bit, just very, very little, like 1/8 of an inch, it's going to go ahead and even everything up for you, and it won't be noticeable in your finished project. When you get to this section, just take it easy, go nice and slow. See, if I make my top fabric even, I just have to make sure, sometimes I just slide my towel just a little bit to keep everything tucked in even. Now if you then you always want to backstick it, and then you always want to backstitch at the end so your thread doesn't come undone. After I backstitch, I still like to take a couple stitches. Don't know why, just do. And that's it. And voila, one finished towel. I think it takes me longer to change out the thread on my machine or wind a new bobbin than it does to actually make one of these. You can go ahead and hit it with an iron if you think it needs it, but mostly it's fine. Fold it up neatly, tie a ribbon around it, put it in a package, and you have a good gift. What I like to do is I like to try to find the towels when they're on sale, or even the fabric when they're on sale, and you can make them throughout the year and keep them in a gift bin. So if you get invited to a housewarming, or if you have a surprise guest at Christmas or any other holiday, you can just pull out one of these towels or a set of 3 or whatever, and you have a gift all ready to go. I like to give a set of these to a new bride and groom. You can make a whole year's worth so they have all the different holidays and just give it as one set, plus some regular plain ones. Let's say the husbands are really big into football, so you can use his favorite team or just football fabrics. And if the wife, if she likes to cook, you can find some fabric with food on it. Even these pumpkins will work for someone who likes to cook. And then you just have a nice big gift set for them. And if you keep them in your gift bin throughout the year, you won't even have to make the gifts ahead of time because they'll be right there, and all you have to do is worry about wrapping them up nice and pretty. You know how when you hang your towel from the stove or from the door of the refrigerator, a lot of times it just falls to the floor constantly? They have one where you can add a hanger to the top and it can button or snap on to the handle of your stove or refrigerator. I think that's the next type of towel we're going to be making. So if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like down below, and if you want to see what we're doing next week, don't forget to hit that red subscribe button so you'll get notifications when I have a new video pop up. We'll see you next week. Bye!